For some reason or another, God keeps trying to like kill me. But every time I survive one of his tests, he rewards me by telling me, "See how lucky you are."
Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Necro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Welcome to Meet the Pressers. My name is Klint Macro, and this is my esteemed colleague, Matthew Mallory. Meet the Pressers is a safe place for trigger pressers to congregate, fellowship, and talk about guns, gear, training, political activism, liberty, and sometimes religion. We have a very special guest today that Matt's going to do the introduction.
Yeah, we have Frank Johnson from the Liberty First Foundation and from the Freedom Forum. Frank, how in the heck are you doing today?
We are doing pretty damn good today, and I am extremely happy to be here with you guys today, and I'm very grateful that you guys extended the invitation to allow me to come in and reach out to your audiences and explain to you guys what we're doing, what we stand for, and more importantly, just to catch up on some old times. So we begrudgingly missed the opportunity to get together in Vegas again this year.
Yeah.
So that's one feather out of our cap that we can't regale ourselves with now. But being here is almost as good.
Well, strangely enough, you can still go to Vegas.
Yeah, but you just can't go as a group of people who are, committed to the idea of preserving the Second Amendment.
Well, that's the problem, I guess. Yeah.
Are all the strippers and the street workers there? Are they running around with masks on, like naked? I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, so I don't. Naked cowboy, is he running around naked with a mask on though? I don't know.
Well, he would if he's responsible. He would.
Yeah, well,
kind
of hard for him
with two masks actually. 2 masks, yeah.
Well, he might be a triple masker. We never know.
Oh, that's true.
So when we bumped into each other, obviously not this past SHOT Show because there wasn't one, but the SHOT Show last time, and this has been a long time coming where we were talking about having you on and shooting the shit. So I'm glad we're able to get you on and do some talking here.
Yeah, well, believe me, I'm glad to be here too, and I just actually launched my own podcast too. It's not going to be nowhere near as elaborate as what you guys got here, but my podcast is called Bullet Soup, and we just got picked up on a whole bunch of stuff, and well, hopefully we'll get that launched up pretty well.
Cool.
I'm like right now I'm a bladesmith with way too many irons in the fire. There's like too many things going on for me to concentrate and get one thing done. I can't get one finished blade out of there yet. But we're making progress little by little, and we're moving ahead. So
well, that's good. Now you're down in North Carolina, right?
Right now I'm in North Carolina.
I dare say you don't have a North Carolina accent.
Nah, this is I'm originally from London, and this is what we all sound like in England. Nah, I'm originally out of Brooklyn, New York, and spent the last 20 years or so up in just outside of Binghamton, New York. We migrated north, and then we said frig that, and we migrated south. So right here we're in about as free a country as we could possibly be, where we are, and enjoying the wonderful weather. Well, I got to tell you, North Carolina really does seem to be a hub for a lot of Second Amendment personalities. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of heavy hitters in the Second Amendment community that call North Carolina home. And most of them within an hour of me. There's a town called Southern Pines, and it's like every single person that you talk to down there is former special ops. They work for a gun company. They got this channel, that channel. They work for these people. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I didn't realize there was that many people in the community that were there. And it's just, it's incredible. But the one problem I found coming down here, someplace to friggin' shoot. That's the problem. there's such a lack of outdoor facilities out here. I like to film outside rather than being indoors.
Right.
And trying to find any place down here that's within an hour of my own home that I can actually load the truck up with guns, go out, get a whole bunch of good video. I can't do it.
I taught at a really nice public range at a Shelby, North Carolina, just about an hour west of Charlotte. I was doing a DSF instructor development class there about 2 years ago, year and a half ago. They had just opened it, I guess, and it was reclaimed like garbage dump, and they repurposed it, and it was really, really nice. But you could smell just a lint of trash in the air.
Well, you encourage the black powder guys to come in, and they'll take care of that pretty quickly.
There you go.
But
So tell us about Liberty First Foundation.
All right, Liberty First Foundation was the child of myself, my partner Michael Marshall, and another couple of people that came along and helped us. We wanted to create a Second Amendment organization that could kind of slip below the radar. And every time you hear about a Second Amendment organization, the word gun is always in the title.
Mhm.
And whenever you got to go in and you want to talk to a politician or get a meeting with somebody or anything like that, whenever they hear gun, you're not getting anywhere.
Mhm.
So we decided that we wanted to come in under the radar and said, well, who could possibly object to liberty? Well, so we said, all right, well, Liberty.
Actually, quite a few
Yeah.
elected officials.
Yeah.
Liberty.
But at least we can get our foot in the door for a lot of different meetings and a lot of interviews and stuff
Mhm.
like that, because people don't necessarily know what we're going to be about.
Right.
We can go in under the pretense of saying we want to talk about First Amendment issues, Fourth
Mhm.
Amendment issues,
Mm.
whatever that might be. We want to talk about voting rights. We could talk about anything. Now, even though we address every civil right that there is, our primary focus has always been the Second Amendment. So when we're able to talk to somebody and say, oh, the Liberty First Foundation would like an interview or like a meeting, they'll more or less acquiesce and let us in the door. And then when we walk in there, we're like, hey, what the hell are you doing with our gun rights? And we kind of, blindside them a little
Yeah.
bit and take them off guard. And a lot of times they're not prepared for what we're going to ask them, because we do a lot of research. We've got a lot of people that have helped us out over the last few years that they don't really care about getting their name in print. And neither do we. We don't care about publicity. We don't care about anything. The only thing that we care about is making positive changes to the Second Amendment community. We don't care who gets the credit so long as something good happens. And a lot of the legislation that you saw being passed around the country for the sanctuary policies for red flag laws,
Mhm.
a lot of the verbiage that was written in those policies were all written by my partner, Michael Marshall.
Wow.
And we were able to disseminate that through a lot of various politicians around the country that are sympathetic to the cause, that said, wow, this was very well thought, it was well written, and they took our words, put it out there, and they sponsored it. So even though our name, Liberty First Foundation, isn't attached to it, it's still our language.
Behind
And
the
it's still-
scenes.
yeah, and we found that to be a very effective way of doing things. The only problem is it's an extremely ineffective way when it comes to trying to raise any funds,
Yeah.
Right.
because
Right.
our entire organization is funded strictly by myself and Michael. We fund everything. We don't take in donations. We don't really have a fundraising apparatus. We have no method of generating income other than if we wanted to produce t-shirts or something like that.
Well, there's your problem.
Well, well, that's one of our problems, and we were doing it for a while, but we got so much pushback from a lot of manufacturers that didn't want to let us carry our logo, because as soon as they found out that we were gun related,
Mhm.
every time that we designed something new and put it up there, it was like, oh, well, this might infringe on somebody else's copyright. I'm like, I drew it. It's my design. It's nobody's, it's mine. So we ditched on that. We said, you know what? Once we get to the point where we're prominent enough in the industry and enough people know us, that we start saying, hey, listen, we could maybe use a little bit of help with something, then we'll start reaching out and asking for a little bit of help. But as it is right now, we're completely self-funded, and we do everything. All our videos, our ammo purchases for our gun reviews, the guns themselves. We don't get a lot of people giving us stuff.
Wow.
So we buy everything, review it, put our articles together, and we give you the the no bullshit skinny on everything. This way we're also not beholden to anybody either.
Yeah.
Smart.
We don't have to have somebody say that we're shilling for somebody when we're not. And even the companies that have sent us stuff, we tell them, listen, if this thing's a piece of crap, we're going to let people know it's a piece of crap, because we are not so much concerned about your bottom line so much as we're concerned that the consumer is going to have something in their possession that's going to be functional and reliable, and that you're going to stand behind it. Because if you don't, there's 100 other companies that are going to step in and fill that void.
Right.
So if you don't want to send us something because you're afraid we're going to give it a bad review, don't send it. We don't want it. But if you're going to send it to us, we're going to be honest about it. And so far, we've had some pretty decent luck in the industry with people, sending us product, and a lot of things we've had to send back, being on a trial basis, and that's fine. But the problem is every time we get something in, we got to pay the transfer fee. We got to pay the shipping. We got to ship it back. We got to buy the ammo. We got to, do all our travel, all our expenses. Everything's out of our pocket. And then, you guys are in the business, damn well is what I do. Somebody always says, well, what have you done lately? I'm like, what have I done? Well, we're out there every day. We're trying to make a difference. Everyone likes to sit home and be an armchair quarterback. They complain about what everybody else is not doing.
See it all the time.
But they don't get into the fight themselves. Everybody wants somebody else to pick up the flag and run with it. And we're trying. We're trying to do it every single day, but man, it would sure be nice to get a little bit of help from the people on the sideline.
If every gun owner would just invest an hour a week, not even an hour, a half hour a week, just to send a couple emails, make a few phone calls, my goodness, like take a letter, put a stamp on it and mail it registered to somebody, talking about legislation, or asking them why they're supporting legislation or why aren't they supporting legislation. I mean, that kind of stuff goes a long way if we have the numbers doing it.
Yeah, well, they keep relying on their studies and their focus groups and their, all of the people that are in their staff to say, all right, well, what can we say to appease the voter this day? But they don't actually listen to the voter. I mean, even when you look at some of the stuff that was said over the last few years between the shoulder thing that goes up and the ghost gun that shoots this and AR-15s weigh as much as 10 boxes, you might be moving. We have people that are writing legislation that have absolutely no fundamental knowledge of firearms at all. And they have
they don't want to be educated either. Unfortunately.
But what's worse, all right, I understand people not understanding the actual ins and outs of firearms, because there's so many of them that we could all get lost in the minutia. There's guns that come out every week that I've never even heard of. This stuff, and I got a pretty good collection. Stuff I know I've never even seen, I've never heard of, and I'm gonna have to educate myself every day. But you don't have to know the firearms to get to know the firearm community and get to know the impact that your legislation is going to have on the innocent people that need that firearm to defend themselves, their property, and their family. And they seem to think that this is the problem, and this is not the problem. It's them who is the problem. I would say it's not even the criminals that are the problem. It's the fact that they've enabled laws to be written that have taken so much of our rights away from us that they've emboldened the criminals to be able to do whatever they want to do.
Well, look at New York. New York's a perfect example with bail reform. It's catch and release. The criminals are literally doing things over and over and over and over again because they know they're not going to go to jail, and they're just going to show up to a judge, and a judge is going to not put them in jail, and they're going to have to pay some fine, or oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. It's ridiculous.
And when laws are in place, they don't enforce them.
Right.
Well, we have a 5-year mandatory minimum if you commit a crime with a firearm, and it's always pled away and dealt away.
Yeah. Well, New York City is its own advocate for its worst laws. And I'll give you a quick example. Back in the early 1990s, I had the right to print gold. I had a New York City concealed carry permit.
Wow.
This is next to impossible.
There's only like 300 people in the entire world that have that, right?
Yeah. And I had one.
Wow.
All right. I was in league with Donald Trump and Bill O'Reilly and all the rest of these, hoity-toities that managed to get their permits. But I managed to get one. The work that I was doing at the time, was necessary for me to carry a firearm. And I had to carry that firearm from New York to New Jersey to Connecticut and everywhere in between. And I had to be covered for all those areas. So I had the concealed carry permits from each of those states.
Wow.
It's impossible to get them. Now, the New York City carry permit, concealed carry permit, lasts 5 years. Then you have to renew it. Well, after the second year of me doing that work and deciding to say, you know what, this paycheck is not worth the target that's on my back, and saying, I'm done, I'm going to walk away, I left New York City. But I never told the New York City Pistol Licensing Division that I was leaving. I just packed up my crap and I went.
Yep.
Well,
Now,
just like you thought you were a free man and could just move about, right?
Well, here's the thing. This is what's gonna blow your mind, is that I moved away, and then for 3 years, I never told anybody in New York City that I was leaving. And I had my handguns that were registered on my permit, and I disappear. 3 years after I move, I call my landlord and I said, hey, my pistol permit for New York City just expired yesterday. If the police should happen to come to the house looking for me, just give me a call and let me know, and I'll remedy the situation. A month later, I'd call them up. 6 months later, call them up. A year later, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, call them up. Nobody from the Pistol Licensing Division ever came to the house to say, hey, where are all of these guns that are now illegal? And why are you in possession of them? Because you no longer have a valid permit. They never showed up. It's been 21 years. They have never shown up to my house in New York City, to my apartment, and asked where my guns are. Now, every one of those guns that were on that permit are still in my possession. Now, they're all still registered on my New York State carry permit, which, by the way, they don't communicate. The state and the city, they don't communicate with one another as far as who owns what. But you got to wonder to yourself, how many people in New York City went through the hell that I went through, or close to, when getting a premise permit or a target permit. And they wound up going through the process, legally obtaining a firearm, the legal right to have that firearm, and then they die, or the permit expires, or something happens. And then here comes little Johnny with the in-laws to clean out Uncle Bob's, house, and finds his old, 38 in the drawer. Well, if the city isn't following up with all of the permits that they issued when they expired and saying, okay, where are these guns? Well, how the hell do you think guns wind up on the street? How do you think they wind up on the black market? Because you have tens of thousands of guns that at one point or another were registered as legally owned in New York City, wind up being in the myth, in the midst. They're in the ether. Anybody can get their hands on them because New York doesn't do any follow-up with anything, because it has absolutely nothing to do with anything but the almighty friggin' dollar.
They
It costs you over $3,000 to get a carry permit in New York City, if you get it.
And upstate's better, but there was a case in Oneida County, Deerfield, where a guy had used his dead father's handgun within the past year and stopped 2 intruders, and the DA in Oneida County charged him with being in possession of an illegal firearm. Now the gun was just in the house that him and his father resided in when these guys broke into it. And he used the tool at his disposal, which happened to be his father's gun. Now, if his father was still alive, he wouldn't have had no problem at all. You're totally allowed to use that firearm in New York State. But because his father was predeceased, it became a problem. Now, those charges have since been dropped against him. They were.
As far as, the charges were dropped against him. I guess they realized that there was probably given the rural nature of where this took place, there would be a little something called jury nullification. Because it would have been somebody like me on there who said, get the hell out of here. This guy didn't do a damn thing wrong.
That's exactly it. I use that exact example as far as jury of public opinion, where they call up the DA, and Andrew Bronco, when he was on the show, he used the analogy that no DA wants to lose a case. You never have a DA. You never have a DA say, "Yeah, I got a 50% conviction record. That's pretty good, right?" No, because they pick the cases they know they can win, and that DA knew he couldn't win that case.
Well, they either pick the cases they think they can win, or the ones that are really high profile that'll get them reelected.
Which is George Zimmerman.
Exactly. Which is also another reason why they have so many people allowed to plead down. Because every time you plead down and you get your conviction through that, your conviction rate goes up. even though you're not convicting the person on the charge that they originally, charged with, you're convicting them on a lesser
something,
crime.
yeah, on something.
But I mean, I just saw today a guy in Binghamton got arrested for having police pulled him over, and he had some hot pot in the car, and he had a loaded gun in the car, and they're saying, oh, he can get up to 5 years in jail for it. And I'm like, I'm seeing headlines in the news from a couple of weeks ago. Guys in New York was convicted of sexual assault on a child, 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying you're gonna really waste the court's time because some guy had a loaded gun. So what? I'm also of the mind. Look, I believe that there should be no licensing. I mean, I'm straightforward with it. All gun laws are an infringement as far as I'm concerned. There shouldn't be no licensing. You should be able to, carry whatever the hell you want to carry, and whatever tool works for you, you use it. That's the way I look at it.
Very true.
And even as far as prohibited persons go, we're also of the mind, well, you know what? You serve your time, you come out of jail. Guess what? Your rights should be reinstated.
Agreed.
I agree too.
And somebody said, well, what about violent criminals? Well, you know what? I don't have a problem with a violent criminal getting their gun rights back. And they say, why not? Because I don't. Why do you have a problem with them getting their gun rights back? Well, this person is violent. They shouldn't be in society. Then reform your legal system so that you don't let them back out of jail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, give them their friggin' rights back. Because if you're going to trust them to be out in society, they should be able to be trusted with all their rights. And if you can't correlate those two things together, then something is broken. Denying that person his rights or denying society their ability to feel safe because you've let some lunatic out of jail. You guys make the decision which one you think is going to be more effective.
Now, I'm curious to see how New York's going to play it out with allowing people to vote again that are criminals, felons, but yet are they going to give them their Second Amendment rights back? That'll really show
doubtful because they're trying to take ours away, and we haven't been through the criminal.
Right. So why is one different than the other if they're really trying to give these criminals these reformed criminals their rights back? It should be no different.
Yeah, well, like I said, they look at the enumerated rights. They look at it as being anything that can benefit them, we can have. Anything that benefits us, we can't.
Yep.
Right.
And the one thing that benefits us, two things that benefit us more than anything else are our Second and First Amendment rights.
Correct.
Amen.
And they will do everything they can to deny us that while strengthening their ability to subvert the Fourth Amendment. And be able to come into our house. And as a matter of fact, SCOTUS is taking that up right now as to whether or not the police department can come into your house without a warrant and would be justified in taking a firearm based on a red flag law. Yeah. And that to me is just that's going to be a death sentence for a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of law enforcement, a lot of innocent people too. You know, to kick the wrong door in, or somebody thinks that it's a robber.
Well, I might be preaching to the choir here, but if you read the Declaration of Independence and look at all of the issues that they wanted to address and apply it to modern times, that list is getting pretty big, and you can apply it nowadays just as much as you could have back in 1776.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've said the tree is getting thirsty. I say things like that. I'm one of these people that I really have no filter, and I have to always kind of be careful about how I say things if I'm representing my own point of view or I'm representing the point of view of the Liberty First Foundation. Because first and foremost, we all want a peaceful transition of power. We all want a peaceful preservation of our rights. We all want everything to be peaceful, but we are being pushed every single day to the point where our peaceful resolutions are also being limited. We can no longer gather in groups. Why do you think COVID, when one of the first things they shut down were the pubs? Because I kind of think to myself, gee, where was the seed of freedom planted in the United States when we were still just a set of colonies.
Taverns and pubs.
Taverns and pubs. It was gathering places where
Yep.
people communicated and could speak their mind. And yeah, maybe a little libation was a little bit of liquid courage, but people were able to speak their mind and say what they wanted to say.
Mhm.
But that's where the seeds of liberty were planted. And one of the
Indeed.
first things they did was shut down the gathering halls. They shut down the pubs. Now, my daughter owns a bar. She owns a bar in Endicott, New York, called the New Yorker. If you're in Endicott, New York, stop by, say hello. Her name is Crystal. Tell her I sent you. And if she
Nice.
doesn't smack you, well, then I guess I'm in good terms. But her bar is like a shoebox. On a good night, you could fit maybe 12 people at the bar.
Oh, wow.
And they would tell, and it's a little tiny little place. And the first thing they did is they tell her, oh, you have to have X amount of people distance between you. You can't have a food menu. You can't have a food program. You can't do this. You can't do that. She can't open, period.
No.
Mhm.
Because by the time she would go by and abide by the rules that they set forth, there'd be
Two people.
in
Yeah,
the bar.
two patrons.
And it's not enough to cover
No.
the overhead for opening the door.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, the lunacy. I mean, you got the 4 boxes of liberty, right? And we're pushing closer to that last box, and we kind of seen it a little bit with January 6th down in DC. You know, people are pissed off. People are sick and tired of the government taking. I mean, look, $1.9 trillion. Where the hell is this money coming from? And they're talking about giving people $2,000 a month. Is it just to sit around and do nothing?
Yeah,
Until
the universal basic income. I have
Yeah.
the app on TV called Pluto TV, and I'm sitting around at the middle of the night watching my This Old House and stuff like that, and they see these commercials for the universal basic income. $1,000 a month is guaranteed because the corporations did so well under COVID that they need to have that profit extracted from them and then redistributed to the people who generated that profit, the people who bought their products.
It's
And I'm like,
ridiculous.
well, that's not how economics
No.
really is supposed to work.
No.
You know, and I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of hearing people talk about the jobs Americans won't do. I have been inside septic systems. We're making repairs. I have tunneled underground where I was in a cavity underground, submerged in mud water with a rubber hose out of my mouth so I could breathe to make a repair to a foundation.
Wow.
There are things that I have done to earn a living that I have come home stinking to high heaven, broken, beaten, battered, cut, bruised, and otherwise just you wouldn't want to come near me. And I said, I work for a living, and I work for every damn dime that I've ever earned in my life, and I never wanted anything for free. How am I going to ever sit back and rest on my laurels and say, look at what I'm getting for free from somebody else's work, somebody else's blood, sweat, and tears is going to go into a business so government can tax them, take it from them, and give it to me that I haven't earned it. Now that to me that's like, aside from humanity, that like strikes a blow against my male ego. I'm like, I'm a man. I got to do man things, and earning a living is one of them.
Yep.
And if anybody's going to sit there and just take that check in, and they can do that in clear conscience, then I have to call into question an awful lot about who that person is.
Yeah, harumph.
With us being foster parents, we see that a lot with families. It's a lot easier to have another kid and have the government give you money than it is to actually go out and get a job. And I mean, when we first got together, we were 15 to 16 when we got together in high school. My wife and I, we got married at 16 and 17, had our first kid at 16 and 17. And, you know, we were on welfare right off the get-go, but I was working 2 part-time jobs and going to school to graduate, and then went into the military. So it wasn't, to me, it was just something to help get us through to get into the military. And then from there forward, you know, we're doing good. So it's just, it drives me nuts to see these people living off of it, and then purposely not wanting to work just to, you know, do whatever they want to do and go have steak and shrimp for dinner instead of busting their ass.
Yeah, I've always worked for myself, so I have to work for the opportunity to work.
Yeah.
And
Well,
my wife has always worked, and you know, we see exactly what you're talking about, people just wanting to live off of the tit. And then as I have worked for myself and have my own businesses, you know, I'm starting to see the fruit of my labors over the last, you know, couple decades, and we're doing real well. And every year I got to go pay my fine for being successful.
well, then
My success fine at tax time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, then you'll appreciate, like I said, I was a general contractor for a long time, and I could always laugh when, payday came. And I have subcontractors that are working for me because it
Mhm.
was easier to work with subcontractors in New York than it was to hire individuals to come in and work. Because you hire a guy on Monday, that's $2,300 you're laying out to New York State for workers' compensation.
Yep.
If that guy don't come back from his lunch break, you're still out that $2,300.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's easier to hire subs and you get the job done.
Mhm.
And I'm laughing because the couple of guys that I would hire and bring them in, I'm like, they're complaining about what money they made. And I was like, listen, you're working 40 hours a week. You're making more money than I am, and I own the company.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, how do you figure that? And I'm like, well, you're not going home and writing up the estimate for the next job, doing the research. You're
Right.
not doing the bids. You're not putting Saturday and Sunday in on the road, going out and quoting jobs and taking measurements.
Yep.
You're not sitting at the computer writing up the bill, writing up the plans for the next job. I says, I'm working 90 hours, 100 hours a week.
Insurance,
And-
workers' comp.
Yeah.
And said, and then I got to buy all the tools. I got to buy the vehicles. I got to pay the insurance. I got to pay for whatever little advertising that we got to do. I
Gas.
says, I'm the one buying all the company shirts, the company boots, the company pants. I'm buying all the rest of that stuff.
Mhm.
How much do you think I'm making at the end of the week? I figured it out one day. It was like one of my best years. I made like $7 an hour
Nice. Awesome.
on
That's
one
pretty
of my
awesome.
best years.
Yeah.
And I was a king at that. I was a king. But then I said, you know what? My back don't work. My neck don't work.
Right.
I'm broken.
Your employees don't work.
My employees don't work. I said,
Well, they can sit at home and get $2,000 a month for doing
Right.
just that.
It's crazy, man. It's
Thanks,
crazy.
Biden.
Yep.
Mm.
Well, Frank, it's been awesome. It's been awesome talking to you, chatting.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, you guys are doing a tremendous service for the Second Amendment community, keeping everybody aware, keeping everybody entertained, and keeping everybody engaged. And you
Thanks.
guys are doing it, and I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
And if at one time I can get you guys to come over onto my show
We'd love to.
and help me, because I'm only a few episodes in.
All right.
I can tell you my show's a little different than yours. I think we're a little more vulgar.
Okay.
I can be vulgar.
Yeah, we can.
Oh yeah, but I trying to tone it down.
Not that.
I try to tone it down for the audience that we got, but
People
Our
would think we
show-
have Tourette's now. I'm sorry.
That's right.
but we do gun talk, barbecue talk, home improvement tech tips, and stuff
Nice.
like that.
That's
and,
cool. Yeah, we'd love to come on. I mean, I do
Yeah,
all my own
absolutely.
crap around here, and Clint's pretty handy himself too.
Yeah, I've been known to swing a hammer.
Yeah, but have you been known to hit with your aiming at? There's a difference between.
Well,
okay.
that and my thumb. So just tell us how people can find out more about your organization or any other contact information you'd like to give out.
All right. Well, if they want to take a look at us up on the Liberty First Foundation, it's www.l1f.us. That's our official website. You could also find us on Twitter at the Liberty First Foundation. You'll find us on there. It's easy enough to get us. Our YouTube channel is the Range Report L1F, where we do our little YouTube videos and all the rest of that. And our newest venture is the Freedom Forum website. It's the Freedom Forum. You can find it on the app on the Microsoft, whatever that thing is, the App Store. We're waiting on approval for the Apple Store. Our Apple app is written, but we're waiting for them to give us approval on that.
Very cool.
Our Freedom Forum website is 100% censorship free. We have no fact checkers. We have nobody who's going to boot your account, block your account. We believe that the only way that you should have any community standards is what the community sets by hitting the ignore button. If you don't like something, ignore it. And we're also the only social media website on the face of the planet that actually pays you to engage in conversation and post by earning credits that could be used for in-app purchases for music and game downloads, as
Wow.
well as advertising.
That's
So
awesome.
That is
we're
cool.
we're doing that. And like I said, if you guys want to check us out on any of those forums, we'd appreciate you coming by and taking a look. And if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, they can reach out at frank@l1f.us. That's my official email address. Any questions, comments, concerns, or you want to tell me to go flip off or whatever, hey, whatever, I'm good to go. But we're easy to find if you know where to look.
Cool. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. It's
We
been
do.
an enjoyable conversation. Good to see you again. And Wish you all the best. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys. God bless you guys. Remember, stay safe and shoot
Yeah.
straight. That's my sign off on my YouTube channel, by the way.
Very cool. You
Stay dangerous.
sounds like an old one that I used to do. But stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, like that too.
Take it easy, brother.
All right, guys. Take care.
Hi, everyone. This is Derek LeBlanc with the Kids Safe Foundation. This is Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro.
Meet the Pressers.
There's lots of sponsors that make this show possible, like Mountain Man Medical.
Check them out and give them your business.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Thanks for watching or listening to our show.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, click that little bell thingy so you know when the next episode's uploaded. Support us on Patreon. Come to one of our classes. Host us to come to you and do one of our classes at your location.
And until next time.
Adieu.
Thank you for watching Meet the Pressers.